Bills Mafia, happy Victory Monday. We are here. I am joined by Peter DiBiase. I'm Dave Myers, owner and founder of Built in Buffalo. We are going to try to break down the Josh Allen experience. We have a packed show. We're going to try to condense it all into about 30, 35 minutes. We're going to talk about Josh Allen, Keon Coleman, the Bills' run defense, Tyrell Shavers, the whole nine. So, Peter, happy Victory Monday to you first and foremost, brother. How are you feeling after yesterday's Josh Allen experience? How are you feeling, man?
It was a bit of a roller coaster. It kind of, which I feel like some people, some fans in the media and some fans in general were kind of asking for that in the last couple of weeks, where we've seen the Bills under Joe Brady kind of a little bit more in control kind of offense and kind of nothing crazy, kind of take what the defense gives you and kind of move the sticks as best as possible. But this is kind of like felt like Brian Daboll kind of offense where everything was at stake. You had the Josh Allen interception in the end zone. You had the interception on fourth down, but then you also had the pass to Tyrell Shavers, a couple rushing touchdowns. He had 6 total touchdowns. It was a bit of a roller coaster, and it got better as the game went on. It went from first half, which was very up and down, and he mentioned it. He didn't love how they played in the first quarter. And then as the game went on, I felt like he got more comfortable. His completion percentage went up, but it was definitely a roller coaster. But a lot of Bills fans were asking for this.
Yeah, it's kind of ironic that, and we'll talk about Keon Coleman here in a minute, but it's kind of ironic that the Bills roll out a different receiving core per se. Obviously, you sprinkle in Gabe Davis, you give Tyrell Shavers more of the outside looks, and then the Bills offense looks more explosive. I didn't know this until just a few minutes ago, but I was looking at some next-gen stats, and Tyrell Shavers had the most separation of any receiver in Week 11 at 6 yards average per route run. So that's kind of insane. I don't know if Tyrell Shavers is absolutely the answer to what we've been looking for with this wide receiver room and separation and nobody's getting open. But let's talk about Tyrell Shavers for a little bit here because, when the Bills elevated Gabe Davis and then they signed Mecole Hardman to the actual active roster, there was a lot of conversations about what does this mean for all the other guys, the guys that are like the fringe 4, 5, 6 guys, like who's the odd man out? Is it Curtis Samuel? Is it Elijah Moore? Is it Tyrell Shavers? And a lot of the argument for Tyrell Shavers is he just does everything that he's asked to do. He plays on all 4 units on special teams. Obviously, he's helping in the run game with his blocking ability. So talk to me a little bit about what you saw from Tyrell Shavers yesterday. A guy that just works his tail off in practice, obviously, and he's worked to get everything that he's been able to succeed, especially yesterday. So what's your thoughts on Tyrell Shavers? Is this a guy that can be a reliable, say, maybe number 3 wide receiver in this offense?
I think so. We probably have to maybe pump the brakes for a second on the Shavers hype. But look, if you're targeted 5 times, bring the ball down 4 times for 90 yards and a touchdown, it's a great game. It's a terrific game, and a lot of his catches he had obviously that deep ball touchdown that everyone knows in the back of the end zone, which we really haven't seen from the Bills offense this year. What was it, like the first time Josh Allen's thrown a touchdown over 40 yards since like 2022, and we're in 2025 right now. So we haven't seen that in multiple years. He had another couple catches right around the 20 to 15 to 20 yards mark, right, where it's extending first downs and all that kind of stuff. I would probably take a step back and be like, ask me in 2 weeks, what does he do Thursday against Houston? What does he do against Pittsburgh? And then if he's producing this type of kind of route tree, then this reminded me of a similar kind of vintage kind of Gabe Davis game, but with a lot more separation, with a lot more explosive separation deep. And he has the frame to be a deep receiver for the Bills, like a deep post kind of receiver, kind of what Keon maybe is supposed to be. But it was something that the team needed. He was his best game as a pro. And like you said, the reason he's been active every week is because he's a great blocker on the outside. He plays great special teams. And now he kind of gets his first real kind of involvement. Like he's obviously had catches this year. He's been targeted a handful of times, but his real okay, he's one of our focuses this week in the offense, and he excelled. But it felt nice to see a guy that could take the top off the defense. And then not just take the top off the defense, but have a couple other catches around 15 to 20 yards. So I think the Bills offense needed that, and it's his best game as a pro. I would probably wait a week or two before we say he's wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 on this offense. But I have no idea who is wide receiver 2 and wide receiver 3 on this offense anyway. So it could be him.
Right. And that play to me, and if there's a fantastic end zone shot of him before he catches the ball, like the concentration level on that is just unreal. And what's nice about that is it looks like the guys that they deployed yesterday are guys that Josh Allen, I think, feels more comfortable with off script. I feel like if you look at like Gabe Davis has always been fantastic for Josh off script. It's just the way it is. And then that play too, Josh was kind of roaming around the pocket. The Bucs only rushed 3. You're like, okay, what's he going to do? And then he just uncorks it. And kudos to Shavers for just, staying with the play. You know what I mean? Just keep running the route, and your number was called. So let's talk about Gabe Davis for a little bit, because it's odd that in 2025 that there was a lot of talk about Gabe Davis. He was released by the Jaguars after signing the big contract. The Bills brought him back, and I feel like a lot of fans were talking about, well, this is just Brandon Beane bringing back the old tried and true. And then you see Gabe Davis out there, and I just feel like Josh Allen has a level of comfort with Gabe Davis. You could talk about what he did in the past with his drops, and you could talk about how his career kind of ended in Buffalo in 23. He was walking off the field after the Bills lost, and he was chirping at fans and things like that. But I feel like Gabe Davis might be what the Bills have been looking for in Keon Coleman. I'm not saying he's better than Keon Coleman, and I'm not saying Keon Coleman's better than Gabe Davis. I'm just saying he's reliable. And if you target him, he's going to make plays. Didn't have a huge day, but he made plays when he was called on. So what was your thoughts on the Gabe, elevation? I think it was just a matter of time before, he was brought up to the active roster after being fully recovered. So what was your thoughts on Gabe Davis and how he performed yesterday, just to kind of complement the rest of the receivers that were on the field yesterday?
Yeah, you're right. He didn't have the most glaring stat line. And if you didn't watch this game and you're box score watching and you're like, 3 catches for 40 yards on 4 targets, it's a solid day. It's 40 yards. It's nothing to write home about. But look, you bring in 3 of your 4 targets. He did have that one drop in that slant pass in the end zone. Not the easiest ball to catch, but obviously something, if you asked him, he probably would say, I need to catch that ball. And that's a fair statement. But look, he had that one play, I believe, when I think Josh was scrambling and Gabe kind of came back to him. And you can tell how, like you mentioned, Josh is comfortable with off script with Gabe Davis, because Gabe Davis kind of knows what Josh is going to do. It was cool to see. And I think people forget that 2 years ago that he signed a pretty big contract with the Jaguars. It was like a 3-year, almost 45 million.
He got a lot of money.
Dollar deal that the Bills were never, ever going to match or to do. And I remember when Lance and I were talking about, like, should we bring Gabe Davis back? And like, yeah, but at the right number. And the Bills never even came close to the right number of what Gabe Davis got in the open market. And I don't blame Gabe Davis for taking that deal. Only last 1 year in Jacksonville, and now he's coming off an injury. He's back in Buffalo. So 2 years ago, this guy was a coveted, for the most part, free agent on the market. So this wasn't 5 years ago where he was signed this deal. It was 2 seasons ago. So I think the level of comfort Josh has with Gabe is going to make him valuable in this offense. I don't know if he's going to have the 4 catches for 90-yard performances. And look, Thursday against Houston, he might have 1 catch for 5 yards, right? And the Bills offense still might be really good. So I don't know what his week-to-week performance is. I expect him to get a jersey every single week if he's fully healthy. I would be shocked if he's not getting a jersey every single week when he's healthy. And his first catch was that kind of slant route that we've seen them try to run to Keon a handful of times. And we saw it when Gabe was in Buffalo, his first stint. They try to run that quick slant kind of 6-7 yards in and see what happens. And they did it right away to Gabe. He caught the ball, got about 7-8 yards. And they tried that with Keon. And it's been very hit or miss with Keon. So if you're Keon Coleman, if you're Gabe Davis, like, Gabe Davis is probably the replacement for Keon. So if Josh trusts Gabe and the Bills staff trusts Gabe, it puts Keon in a weird spot, and we'll talk about Keon in a second here. But it felt cool to see Gabe back on the field, and he was efficient and he was solid. Nothing to write home about. He did get his helmet stuck with Josh Allen, so they can't. They love each other that much. But and you mentioned it, Dave. It feels like Josh kind of trusts Gabe enough where I'm going to scramble. I know Gabe is going to come back to me and give me a chance to make a play. I don't know if Curtis Samuel or Keon Coleman or even Joshua Palmer have done that so far this year. Josh did miss Joshua Palmer on the sideline when he was scrambling and threw it away. So maybe Palmer doesn't fit into that. But I think Josh trusts Gabe, and I think it could be a valuable piece to this offense.
Yeah, and I don't think that we need to think that Gabe's going to come in here and be, 2020 Gabe Davis or 2021 Gabe Davis. That's not the point of this whole exercise that we're doing talking about Gabe Davis, because I'm seeing a lot of comments, people talking about, well, that's just what Keon would have done. Okay, but there's a lot more to this. There's layers to this whole thing. I think there, like you said, Peter, there's a trust level with Josh and Gabe. Say what you want about Gabe's career in dropping passes. That's fine. You can have that win. But I think when Josh needs something, we've seen Gabe Davis be reliable. I mean, it is what it is. And if we want to talk about Keon, we can talk about Keon, because a lot of the stuff that happened with Keon missing a meeting. Okay, here's my take on it. If you're performing on the field and you can back up missing a meeting because of whatever circumstances, that's one thing. But when you're not performing on the field and you're missing meetings, now there's an issue. So to me, it's plain. It's very simple to explain. You get paid by a professional sports team to show up for meetings. You get paid millions of dollars to show up for meetings, to get treatment, to go to the weight room, to practice, to play games. You get paid for that. Now, I understand personal things happen, and there was no information given about why he missed the meeting. It just said he missed the meeting. But then later reports come out saying that this is not the first time. So I think we're past the point, and Dion Dawkins even said it, we're past the point of patting on the back saying, it's okay, we'll keep it moving. It's a maturity thing at this point. I don't care how young he is. If you work a job and you don't show up for a meeting, you're going to get in trouble. That's just kind of how it works. Now, what does this mean for Keon going forward? I don't know. I don't know if he plays Thursday against the Texans. I don't know if this means he's going to get less reps the rest of the season. I don't know what this means for Keon in the offseason. So it's going to be interesting to see how McDermott Bean handled this whole situation going forward, because I think we've all wanted to root for Keon Coleman. I think we've all wanted him to be successful. We've all wanted him to, be that guy that Josh wanted in the draft at the 33rd pick. But it comes a point where the coats, the jackets, and the cookies aren't funny anymore. That's not funny anymore. It's all about playing football and helping this team win. And this team doesn't just win on Sunday. They went throughout the week in practice, in meetings, and watching film and all that stuff. So what's your take on Keon Coleman and this whole missed meetings thing? And then the report from Adam Schefter said that this was not the first or second time that he's been disciplined for this. So what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and I know people are saying if he was late, he missed it. It's the same thing. Late, missed is the same thing. If it's a 9:00 meeting, you're there at 8:50, 8:55, right? You're not showing up at 9:15 because you're late. That's late. Late and missing is kind of the same kind of ballpark, in my opinion. I'm disappointed in him because Dion Dawkins, like you said, put it in a great way. It's your second year in the NFL. There's no patting on the back anymore. This isn't your year one rookie, right? And obviously Keon gets a little more leeway than a a day 3 pick does, or a 6th, 7th round pick does, because where he was drafted. And I understand that. I'm hoping, and this is a wake-up call for Keon, because you get asked by media reporters after the game, right? They don't talk to inactive guys. That's not a normal thing. Inactive guys do not get press or conference or talk to the media in the tunnel after the game. That's not a thing. You have Dion Dawkins, who's one of the leaders of the team, talking about it. You have Josh Allen getting asked questions about it, right? So it became a little bit of a distraction, right? And in a team that's trying to win a Super Bowl, distractions are the worst possible thing. So if you're Keon, this should be a wake-up call. This should be, oh crap, I can't pull this stuff anymore. I have to show up and I have to do my job. I have to prove that I can be a valuable receiver and a trustworthy receiver for Josh Allen and the staff. I'm also hoping He watched, obviously he did, Tyrell Shavers yesterday and Gabe Davis play. Similar build, similar kind of role. I think Shavers is a little bit of a different type of receiver, in my opinion, but similar kind of role. Like, it's not 𝐸𝐿 and Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox having great days where they have nothing to do with what 𝐾𝐨 does on the field or how many reps he gets. That should light a fire under him. Like, Gabe Davis has been here before. If Gabe Davis continues to play well, they're going to play Gabe Davis over 𝐾𝐨 Coleman. It's just, I don't think that's a question. So this should light a fire under 𝐾𝐨. Does he play Thursday? I have no idea. But you can't miss meetings. You can't be late to meetings. Like, that's unacceptable stuff. And McDermott and Bean are not going to put up with that. And most staffs in general won't put up with that, no matter where you find teams in the league. But yeah, he needs to show up. I'm hoping this lights a fire under him. I'm like, you have Dion Dawkins, your left tackle, getting asked questions about it or talking about it. Like, 𝐾𝐨 should be a little bit embarrassed for that. And that's not a bad thing. Like, this should be a wake-up call. He needs to use this to be a wake-up call. And I'm hoping this pushes him in the right direction. I know people were saying, and I know you guys tweeted it, not in a bad way. You guys tweeted it like to see what people thought about 𝐾𝐨 dancing pregame. I thought that was fine. Like, that's not a problem at all. Right. I think it would be worse if he was sitting on the bench with his head. Yeah, pouting. Like, he's still having a good time. He's still hyping up his teammates. Right. He's still supporting his teammates. That's exactly what you want. I think that's a great example of maybe 𝐾𝐨 moving in the right direction there. Show up to meetings. Like, you got to show up to meetings. And now you didn't get a jersey on a Sunday when you were a healthy scratch, and you have Gabe Davis and Tyrell Shavers having good performances. This should light up a little bit of a fire under Gabe.
Yeah. So let's talk about the Bills' offense, and then we'll touch on the defense. Is there a coincidence here that this offense looked different, or is it just that this was what the scheme was going to be regardless? Because I felt like the Bills tried to attack downfield more than they typically have this season. Yeah. And we've all been asking for it. We've all been saying, where's the deep passing? Well, Palmer's out. We don't have a deep threat. We can't get separation, stuff like that. But I felt like Josh, sprinkled the ball around pretty well. I mean, 9 different guys caught passes. They got the running backs involved in the pass game. I think between Ty Johnson and James Cook, they had 127 yards receiving, which is great to see. We saw a lot of stuff that we saw last year from Joe Brady, getting Ty Johnson involved, and then, uniquely using James Cook on that passing touchdown, which we saw last year against Miami. So what's your thoughts on Joe Brady kind of going back in his bag and kind of using what worked for him last year, and what was your thoughts on the play calling yesterday?
I mentioned, and I tweeted, the pass to James Cook for the touchdown wasn't obviously the craziest throw, but I thought it was one of the better designed plays we've seen from this Bills offense. We have not seen that kind of Josh look to the right, check down on the right, and have Cook kind of slip out of the backfield to the left and throw a dump off pass, or a little more than a dump off pass, kind of a floater down the left sideline for a touchdown. And getting James Cook involved in the passing game was also something that I loved. The Bills haven't done that all year this year. And the fact that you have probably your most talented offensive player outside of Josh Allen not be involved at all in the passing game was kind of ridiculous through the first 9-10 weeks of this year. And the fact that they got him involved, 3 catches for 66 yards and a touchdown, that was a great wrinkle in this offense. It makes it way more explosive. It gives you another receiving threat. But no, they took deep shots. They had that. He took a deep shot to Curtis Samuel that he didn't hit, right? He took a deep shot to 𝐸𝐿 that he didn't hit. So those are 2 plays that Josh probably should have made those throws, and he'll probably tell you he should have made those throws that he didn't. So he hit a ton of deep shots. They hit a ton of downfield passing, and they still left a little bit meat on the bone. It was an aggressive play calling. I think they saw early on that the running game was not working, right? Like, Cook did not have a great game on the ground. The Buccaneers did a great job of defending the run and partially selling out a lot for the run. Cook was 16 carries for 48 yards. I know Allen had a good day on the ground with 40 yards and 6 carries, so that helped the rushing offense a little bit. But you got multiple guys involved. Like, you just go down I'm not going to read everyone, and you go down the ESPN box score. The amount of guys that had receptions is a ton. And that didn't even involve 𝐸𝐿. 𝐸𝐿 had -3 receiving yards. And he's arguably your most reliable receiver outside of potentially Dalton Kincaid, who didn't even play in this game, who's one of your better deep threats as well. I think this needs to be a recipe for moving forward for the Bills. I think Joe Brady kind of heard the noise. I'm assuming he's like, I'm assuming Josh, McDermott, and company were like, we got to somehow fix what this offense is, because this offense has become very boring. It's become very stagnant. And when we don't run the ball, our offense hasn't succeeded this year. The Bills didn't run the ball particularly well with James Cook, and their offense still put up 44 points. That's a sign that they trusted Josh. They trusted the downfield passing. But I think Joe Brady kind of flipped a switch here. Like, we have to be more aggressive offensively, and they were. And I mentioned it again, but I think involving James Cook in this offense in this passing offense is vital. And I loved what they did with him yesterday.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of comments that are coming across saying that a lot of Josh's passes downfield were off script. Well, yeah, that's the Josh Allen that we like.
Yeah,
the Josh Allen that's got the ability to have guys that understand that if it's off script, I got to move around and get open for Josh. And he was able to hit a couple of those. So,
and the Samuel pass was still a deep pass. It was still Samuel's route was 20 to 25 yards downfield.
Right.
He just adjusted his route when
right.
he saw when Josh pointed. So if he hit Samuel on the original route, it's still a 20, 25-yard pass play, which is a deep pass play, in my opinion. Or fine, we call it a medium to deep pass play, whatever you want to freaking call it. It doesn't matter. He hit Samuel, or he tried to hit Samuel because he pointed Samuel to go upfield and obviously didn't connect. But it was still a deep route from Curtis Samuel, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I like, too, like you said, I like the fact that a lot of the national media was saying that if you stop James Cook, you stop the Bills, which shouldn't be the case. And I think this is kind of a wake up saying that, hey, we still have Josh Allen. I understand there was stuff that was off script and he had the 3 rushing touchdowns, and you're not going to get that every week. But seeing Josh being able to, yes, he bailed on some pockets, but he also made some plays when he did that. And that's where Josh Allen is the most dangerous. When he gets off script and he has the guys that are willing to run around, find an open space, and he's able to hit those guys, I think that's the Josh Allen that we've been asking for from last year. We saw it in a little bit chunk games last year, like the Lions game, the Rams game, things like that. So I think that was nice to see. I will say I'm a little concerned that what happens when Dalton Kincaid comes back, because who are you taking targets away from? Now, I'm not saying it's an issue to have Dalton Kincaid come back, because obviously I think he's the Bills' best pass catcher, and he's shown that he's the one that's been able to get open the most. So what's your thoughts when Kincaid does come back? Because you saw Shakir he didn't have hardly any impact on the Bills' offense, I guess you could say. Is this something where they take targets away from Shavers? They take targets away from this guy, that guy? Because then you got to think about your wide receiver core again. Who's inactive? Is it going to be Curtis Samuel and Elijah Moore? Is it going to be Keon Coleman and Curtis Samuel, or Elijah Moore? Like, what's your thoughts about integrating him back into the offense? And then we'll flip the script and talk about the defense.
It probably takes away a little bit from Shavers and Gabe Davis.
Yeah.
And you probably see less Dawson Knox pass plays down the field, right? I know Knox was targeted 3 times. He had 1 catch for 23 yards. He had a fine afternoon, but it's probably a combination of a handful of those guys. Like Khalil Shakir, obviously he's in your slot. You keep Kincaid, and then you kind of run whoever's your 2 best outside guys. If it's Joshua Palmer, if it's Gabe Davis. If it's Joshua Palmer, it's Keon Coleman. If it's Shavers, Davis, whatever. It takes away probably from Samuel, in my opinion, probably. Just because he kind of plays because Kincaid's kind of plays a slot. Obviously, he's a tight end, but I think it probably takes away from a little bit of Samuel, and then you just move off Shavers and Gabe Davis a little. I don't think it's as drastic as you could argue potentially, but because I think Kincaid's probably arguably your best receiver, in my opinion. But I think it would take away from Davis and Shavers.
All right, let's talk about the defense, because I feel like a broken record when I tweet out, why, with a defensive-minded head coach, have we not been able to stop the run for 9 years? Now, I understand Ed Oliver's out. I understand some guys are dinged up. I get all that. But in run plays, the linebackers seem to have no impact. The defensive front doesn't seem to be able to just make an impact at all in the run game. And Bucky Irvin didn't even play, and that's Tampa's best running back.
Yeah.
And so what's your level of concern here? Because it's not just been 1 or 2 games. There's been 4 or 5 games where Bills are just giving up like gash plays in the run game. and it's just consistently giving up these huge games to whoever's the running back for the opposing team. And I mean, Terrell Bernard played better yesterday. I feel like that might have been his best game this season, but I'm still concerned about the run support from the back seven. I'm still concerned about the defensive front being able to make an impact. What's your thoughts on the Bills' run defense?
Concern meter is a 10 out of 10. It's extremely concerning, and nothing against Sean Tucker, who looked like prime Thurman Thomas yesterday.
3 touchdowns.
It wasn't like you were facing Christian McCaffrey or Jonathan Taylor. You were facing Sean Tucker, and nothing against Sean Tucker. He had a great performance. Rachaad White also ran for about 5 yards per clip. Buccaneers O-line was physical. It's a 10 out of 10 concern because it's an issue. Because the pass defense was, for the most part, really good yesterday. Like, you held Baker to 173 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 68 QBR, 72 rating. Pass defense was good. Like, the pass defense was, you saw what happens when Christian Benford's back in this lineup, pass defense-wise. It makes a huge difference. And then I thought Harrison and Trey White were fine. I thought Cole Bishop was really good again. Jordan Poyer was just solid doing his job. The linebackers concern me. I honestly thought when the Bills went to Dorian Williams more, their rush defense and defense as a whole became better.
Agreed.
That probably means Matt Milano's on the outside looking in for consistent snaps. And we kind of know it's towards the end of Matt Milano's career as a Bill, and he's been a terrific Buffalo Bill, and he's been awesome. So no disrespect to Matt Milano, and no one obviously has disrespected Matt Milano in my opinion. I think it's time that Dorian Williams plays a little more. I think we saw yesterday, and people were talking about when Dorian Williams was on the field, he looked a lot more explosive, a lot faster, a lot quicker to the ball. There was a couple times, and that Sean Tucker pass, that dump off pass that he scored a touchdown on.
Yeah,
Matt Milano was so late coming to that play. He was so slow and he was so late. And 2 years ago, Matt Milano's there. He makes a tackle. It's a 1 or 2 yard play, and it's not a touchdown. I don't know if Matt Milano has that in anymore. I still think he has a chance to be a valuable piece to this team as a third, potentially fourth linebacker. But I would go with Dorian Williams, Terrell Bernard, and then when Shaq Thompson's back, Shaq Thompson / Matt Milano. You can have him split time, whatever you want to do. But I would insert Dorian Williams. Does that fix the run defense? I don't know. You had your two starting D tackles yesterday that came on the field in the first possession were TJ Sanders and Deion Walker. Those are two rookies. That's a second round pick and a fourth round pick. And credit to TJ Sanders for coming back from that injury. And I think he has a chance to be a valuable piece. They need more stopping the run. They need more. It comes from the linebacker position, I think, with Dorian Williams. But it's like you have Daquan Jones, you have Deion Walker, and TJ Sanders. Those guys are talented. Those guys, I think, are good NFL players. You need more from the run stopping. And then one more thing, like Joey Bosa was atrocious yesterday.
Yeah, I saw your tweet.
I tweeted once about Joey Bosa, and I was like, okay. And then he did another bad thing. I was like, I'm tweeting again.
Set the edge, bro.
Like, you can't. He didn't set the edge like 2 or 3 times that led to big plays. He was not really disruptive in the pass his pass rush game, which is what's his key. And then that one Baker Mayfield third down run where Bosa dropped in the coverage, didn't even give an effort. That was, and I think Joey Bosa has been a very good Buffalo Bill this year. Like, I think, and that's why I probably was a little more critical of him. But that was probably his worst game of his season, and it wasn't even close. He just could not set the edge. And when you have a run defense that's struggling up the middle, you have to set the edge. Like, that's just a non-negotiable.
I think that we've all talked about what happens to, especially defensive linemen, defensive tackles, defensive ends. As the season progresses, I feel like production also goes away. We saw it with Ed Oliver a couple of years ago where he had a really good start to a season up until like week 13, 14, and then he just started to decline. Same with Daquan Jones a couple of years ago, like not the injury season, but he was playing really well. And then down the stretch, I don't know if these guys it's not injuries, but if they're just like, they don't have the gas in the tank anymore. You know what I mean? And that maybe that's why the Bills going with, I saw TJ Sanders playing on the edge. Like happened.
They moved Dorian Williams into like the Michael Hoyt kind of role.
And then the Javon Solomon project is not going to work. I understand we're missing Michael Hoyt, but he is not it's not working. Whenever they try to put him in that Michael Hoyt role in the middle of the line, it's just he gets swallowed up. It's just there's no impact at all. And I know they got Morgan Fox on the practice squad, so he's kind of like Michael Hoyt light. So maybe we'll see if he gets elevated Thursday for the Texans game. But to me, I've said this, and I said it last week too. Your best two linebackers are Shaq Thompson and Dorian Williams. And those should be the two guys. If you're playing a two linebacker set, those are the two guys that should be on the field. And if you're going to have three, obviously, you're going to have Terrell Bernard. You should have Terrell Bernard, Shaq Thompson, and Dorian Williams, because Shaq can play both spots.
Mm-hmm.
He can do both, inside and outside.
I thought Bernard was good yesterday.
Yeah, Bernard, like I said,
he's still hindered though. He's still hindered by an injury. You can tell when he's chasing a guy.
There's no speed.
There's
no speed. He is just limping along trying to get to the place. And that stinks, because I feel like the 2023 Terrell Bernard, when Sean McDermott was calling plays, was fantastic. Like, that was an all-pro linebacker. So again, we're going to have to see what the Bills are going to do this Thursday. It's a short week. If they got banged up guys, it's going to be it could be one of those weird games where they have just guys playing out of position, or they're just kind of patchworking this defense together.
And Houston's on a short week too. So
what's that?
And Houston's on a short, and the biggest thing is for Houston, does 𝐃𝐨𝐽 Stroud play?
Yeah. I mean, you want to play Davis Mills? I'd rather play Davis Mills.
I would much rather. They almost lost to Tennessee yesterday.
Yeah, and that game was 3-0, like late in the third quarter. I think it was not good.
So,
but Thursday night football is always weird. These prime time, middle of the week games seem to always, on short weeks, always seem to have some weird things happen. Hopefully, McDermott said after the game yesterday in his locker room speech, he's like, "Look, short week, we got no time for games. Let's get in practice and let's get going." So. Any more takeaways from the game yesterday? I know we're past the 30-minute mark here of the podcast. So you got any other takeaways, or what are you looking forward to for this Thursday's game? Short turnaround.
Rush defense. Like, they're facing, especially if Davis Mills is in the game, they're going to be running the ball a ton because it's Davis Mills. And Woody Marks has had a solid rookie year for Houston. He's been a solid running back. And he's progressed as the year goes on. I think the rush defense should be embarrassed about what they did yesterday. And kind of like the Keon situation, to kind of light a fire under them, because that's kind of unacceptable. Because when you have Josh on the other side and you're humming offensively, the worst thing you can do defensively is give up a ton of run plays, because the clock is just draining, and it gives less possessions to Josh. Pass defense was, I think, really good yesterday. So that pass defense was good. The rush defense, I need to see some sort of rush defense. I'm not asking for the number one rush defense in the NFL, but what did CBS put up? Like 3 different graphics of just absolutely crapping on our rush defense, like second to worst in the NFL. What are they, 5.5 yards per carry?
Yeah,
I'm ballparking those numbers off the top of my head. It's not good. It's not good numbers against the run. And if you think Houston with Davis, if it is Davis Mills, is not going to try to run the ball over and over and over again, like, then you're just kidding yourself. So even if it's 𝐃𝐨𝐽 Stroud, they're probably going to try to run the ball over and over and over again. So yeah, I'm excited to see I'm not excited. I'm a little terrified to see what this rush defense could do. And I am excited. I want to know your thoughts on this. Like, what does the receiving core look like on Thursday? Like, do they give Keon another week off because it's a short week? And that's kind of a curious conversation.
I think if this game was on Sunday, there's a good chance he plays. But since it's a short turnaround, I think that they're going to, if it's not broke, don't try to fix it right now. Yeah. Maybe, this is a week thing for him, even though they play 4 days after they just played. So I'm thinking that maybe this is something where they're looking at it like, okay, we're going to give you a week, see how this turns out, because then they got 10 days after that, right? So they got 10 days after that to figure out what they want to do, if this is a long-term thing, if this is a short-term. And obviously, we don't know what it looks like in the day-to-day at One Bills Drive. Like, what is Keon doing? What is, what are his actions throughout the week? Like, what is his demeanor going into practice this week and stuff like that? And obviously traveling with the team this week to Houston. So I don't know. What I want to see is I'm hoping that this Bills offensive line can withstand. The Texans have a really good defensive line, and they can get after the quarterback. So there was a couple issues that apparently came up on the sideline yesterday with Dion Dawkins and David Edwards. Now, on one hand, you can say I like that fire from Dion, because maybe he was saying, hey, look, we need to be better. Now, I don't know what was said. I don't know what play it was after. I don't know why it got to the way it got to, but apparently Spencer Brown had to separate them because it got pretty heated. Now, maybe that's a good thing. Sean McDermott has always talked about, I like guys that have fire. I like guys that are passionate. So maybe seeing a little bit more fiery Josh Allen yesterday, maybe seeing guys like Tyrell Shavers kind of step up in that underdog-ish type of role and have a good game. Seeing the Bills do different things offensively, getting the running backs involved, and then maybe the skirmish between the offensive linemen, maybe that lights a fire for competition for those guys, and they just want to get after it this week. So that's what I'm hoping to see. Let us know in the comments what you guys want to see. Let us know what you think about the game yesterday. Peter DiBiase, I'll see you next week, brother. Hopefully it's after a Bills win, and we can talk about another Victory Monday.
Yeah.
All right, brother. For Peter DiBiase, I'm Dave Myers. As always, this is Built in Buffalo. Go Bills.
Go Bills.